We remember Muhammad Ali 10 years after his death on June the 3rd, 2016. The Louisville native, known to many as the greatest, I sit down along with photojournalist Jessica Farley with his caregiver and family member to remember the special private family moments from his career to taking care of him in his final days. She had a ringside seat for the man the world called the greatest of all time.
At a young age, being around Muhammad at the age of 9 months old, getting kissed and hugged and squeezed, and then growing up around his family, his whole entire family, his mother and father and his kids, his wives. Muhammad became my best friend. And Muhammad and I pretty much had the same spirit of outgoing, smile, laughter, joking. We played a lot of jokes on Lonnie. We just had a great time. Sometimes Lonnie would have to laugh herself because we were always out doing things. But Muhammad's spirit and just Muhammad, he was light, he was energy, he was fun, and everybody was always excited to see him, not only me. Muhammad could walk in the middle of the street in New York City and draw a crowd. And he drew a crowd wherever he went, even when he was in Louisville, and he loved Louisville, Kentucky. And he would always say, "Where are you going?" I'd say, "I'm going to Louisville." He always wanted to come. Muhammad loved Louisville, and I think that's the reason why Lonnie came back and bought a home here in Louisville and reside here, so Muhammad could actually enjoy being in Louisville, Kentucky, because this is one of his favorite places.
I want the whole world to know that Louisville, Kentucky produces the greatest of all time.
How are you doing? How are you feeling?
It took me 5 years to stop crying. Every day I cried. My doctor said it wasn't good. "Marilyn, you can't keep going like this." I still cry to this day. Now it's not so much crying that he's gone, but it's rejoicing. Lonnie has done a fantastic job and carrying on his legacy. I'm so proud of her. Muhammad's proud of her, because one thing that he would always say to me when we would take rides, "You think they would recognize me? You think they know who I am?" And as we passed, he would roll down the window and look out, and they would say, "There's Muhammad Ali." So yes, he would be very proud today in how the world has carried on his legacy.
Does it feel like it's been 10 years?
No. To me, it feels like maybe a year, a couple of months, because he lives in my heart. He lives around me. Like I said, when I hear the birds, the bees, I see a picture, I'll see somebody, a stranger, with his face on their shirt. It makes me smile and know that Muhammad's still here. So 10 years, I can't believe it's been 10 years. And I actually want him back.
Yes, ma'am. Do you ever visit the memorial at the cemetery?
I do. But I can't keep a dry eye when I go. But Muhammad would tell me, "What are you crying for? You don't need to cry. You know, I'm happy, I'm okay. You take care of yourself." That's how he was. He was a loving soul. And I think he worries about, if he's looking down on us, he would be worried, making sure that we were okay. Because he was just a very caring, very protective individual.
Now, when you said taking care of yourself, you took care of him. Tell me the story about you leaving your job to go help your sister.
Yes. At this particular time, I was in Louisville, Kentucky, working at Ford Motor Company in security and safety. And when I left, I also had a salon. So I was doing both, full time on both almost. So I had no social life. Lonnie called me out of the blue, wasn't expecting it, and asked me, could I come and help her for a couple of months. And Ford gave me 3 months. I had to return. And after being with Muhammad and being with Lonnie and Arizona and working with Lonnie and becoming a team, because her and Muhammad and I were a team. He knew us and he knew he was secure. And I think that made us both, Lonnie and I, feel so good because he was feeling good. And that's what we were there for, to make him the best he could be with dealing with this Parkinson's. Parkinson's is an ugly disease. Every day could be hard, and another day could be easy. So you never knew what day you were going to deal with what, but we had to take it head on. I told Lonnie, I said, let's get him as far as we can in walking, talking, and moving around and going places, and that's what Muhammad loved. Actually, when I went to Arizona, Muhammad was sitting in a chair, punting. Is what Parkinson patients do. They get fixated on something and they won't look up. They're so in tune with whatever they're doing. But to get Muhammad away from that and to get him out and seeing people and feeling good, and like I said, you feed that spirit. Muhammad had an ego, we know, that was so big. So if you could get in and feed that spirit and say, Muhammad, look at you, look how good you look, and put the cologne on him and get him dressed, and he just would light up. And I would always put on that radio with that good old music, any of the music that he would have listened to when he was younger. And next thing I know, he said, I'm still pretty, I'm still pretty. And that's when you knew that you had reached him and he was feeling good, as long as he was feeling good about him. And Muhammad took off. Muhammad was ready to go out to eat. And there was one thing, this is really for my sister Lonnie, because it has been 10 years. Muhammad and I were going so much that we would have dinner parties. Lonnie would be out of town on business, and we would have dinner parties. We would invite all our friends. We would invite some of the celebrities we had met, and it would be about 10 of us. And we would have dinner parties. Muhammad was the head of the table, and he had the best time. They had the best time because nobody knew, they didn't know each other. So they were meeting for the first time. It was like a meet and greet. Muhammad and I would have these dinner parties at least once or twice a month. And Lonnie said to me, she said, Marilyn, you and Muhammad are going to have to cut these dinner parties out. She was doing some remodeling at one of the homes in Michigan, the farm in Michigan, and she was redoing the pool. And I said, why? She says, I'm redoing this pool, and you and Muhammad are just out there just having too much fun. And I told Muhammad, I said, Muhammad, we're going to have to go back to bologna sandwiches. And Lonnie thought that was so funny, and it was funny. But Muhammad and I, we went to hockey, concerts, bullfights, and everybody welcomed us. And ball games, the Suns games, U of L's games, baseball, we were everywhere. And the beauty of it is everybody got to see a little bit of him or a little more of him. And as time wound down, we still stayed busy. We stayed inside and watched a lot of King Kong movies, a lot of scary movies. King Kong was Muhammad's favorite, sorry. He loved that one. But we would watch movies and have little dinner parties in the house and even play bingo. We invited all the men and they would play bingos. And I asked Lonnie, I said, Lonnie, I invited some of the guys over so Muhammad could play bingo. And I said, can we play with quarters? She said, no. Muhammad's going to play with dimes and nickels, but everybody else can play with the quarters. And they did. Muhammad was winning. So some nights we would play Monopoly. Muhammad always wanted to be the banker. Don't ask me why, but he wanted to be the banker. But he never stopped living and never stopped giving. Even then, he would travel and go to events charity events and giving back. And what I can say today, what a great man. What a great person. And when I can sit as a child and watch him around crowds of people, and I'm talking about the poorest of the poor, and then turn around and be around the rich of the rich. Celebrities, movie stars, they're all in all over him. And then I turn around and see sick children with cerebral palsy, overwhelmed with him, total stranger to him, but they knew him. Believe it or not, they knew him. Just first time meeting, but they knew him. His spirit was so grand. And just to see how people absorbed him was beautiful.
Who's the greatest of all time?
Yeah!
So he really is the greatest in many ways.
So as we approach June 3rd, what goes through your mind?
I want to do it all over again. In a heartbeat. I want to do it over again.
Now you sent me some photos. Tell me about some of the photos that you sent me. I know they were private moments with family and with celebrities. What made you decide to release them now so that some of the public can get a glimpse into his private life?
Well, I have hundreds of photos. Muhammad loved taking pictures. And a lot of times, sitting at the breakfast table or just sitting around the house, Muhammad and I would act silly. So we would put on hats, or if I had on a cowboy hat, he wanted to put the cowboy hat on, so we would take pictures. A lot of times we would send them to his children and show that he's doing well. One time we did the red nose, and while we were doing the red nose, we did several photos, like side by side, and it was just being kids, kidding around, having a great time. And one photo I gave you was him with a crown on. That is my favorite picture because the WBC of boxing crowned Muhammad the king of boxing. And that was his crown. Lonnie has it today, and I don't know if it's in the Muhammad Ali Museum now, but I'm sure it is somewhere. But that was the greatest moment because he actually was King Muhammad of the WBC. Yes.
So I know it's been 10 years. What have you been doing with yourself to keep yourself busy?
Like I said, it took me 5 years to stop crying. I came back to Louisville. I felt safe here. I had a home here. Muhammad was buried here, so I felt like I needed to be here. I had to come in. After being out there with Muhammad, meeting and greeting and being around so many people, I had to come inside and find who was Marilyn, because when I was working with Muhammad, it was Muhammad. It was about Muhammad. It wasn't about Marilyn. It wasn't about Lonnie. We were about Muhammad. And we had to focus on him. We didn't have time to focus on us. We tried, but we just didn't have that time. So after he passed, I came back to Louisville and I had to come inside. Very few friends I associated with, but I had to come inside and find who Marilyn was. Plus, I was in mourning for a very long time. For 5 years, that's a long time. To this day, I still cry. Not as much, but I still cry. Just because, and I'm not crying out of sadness, I'm crying out of the love and the beauty of his soul. I want that back. And all the people that I've met, I've never met a person with the energy and the light that Muhammad Ali had. And I think as a person, a human being, you want that, because I've had that with him. And you can't find that. But I had to come back and find out who Marilyn was. And live like that. I guess live it out like that.
So, over these past 10 years, you've created this beautiful garden. Tell me about it.
After Muhammad passed, like I said, I had to come in. Well, Marilyn came in, and this was a little piece of concrete with some rocks around it, and I made myself a garden area, a private fenced-in area of remembering tranquility, peace, kindness, and bringing love back home with me. And if you look behind me, I have a little red bike, and that reminds me of Muhammad. So Muhammad's in here in the garden as well. So this is what I did in my 5 years, was design this garden.
What do you miss most about Muhammad Ali?
Everything. 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 Like I said, I could do it over and over and over. Working with Muhammad was not a job. It was a joy. And the beauty of it, Lonnie and I fed off of each other. If I needed something, she was there. If she needed something, I was there. So we fed off each other. And the three of us, we made it. We were able to do it. And Lonnie stays busy, so I don't get to see her much. And so, you know, and like I said, she's carrying on his legacy. And she's doing an excellent job, and I'm proud of her for it.
Now I want to end on a light note. Tell me something that nobody knows about Muhammad Ali in the public. No family may know, but is there something that he did or said or something?
Sure. Everybody wants to think Parkinson's took Muhammad's voice. You'll hear people swear, oh, he couldn't talk, oh, he didn't say anything. You're right. He didn't, because he wanted to listen to you. Muhammad would play possum, and I would laugh because people would come to the house, and the doorbell, Muhammad's wide-eyed watching television. Jerry Springer was another one of his favorite shows. He would be watching Jerry Springer wide awake. Somebody would ring the doorbell coming to visit. He knew they were coming. Muhammad would close his eyes and act like he was asleep. And I would say, come on in, come on in. And I would do all the talking the whole time they were there. And then I would say, maybe Muhammad would wake up before you all leave and you all could get some pictures. I said, but right now he's playing possum. And eventually he would and kind of wake up. But the whole time he was playing possum, listening to the stories that they would tell, that I would tell, and enjoying it all. Everybody wanted him to talk, and he would. Believe me, Muhammad spoke a lot. Not only sometimes with his voice, sometimes with his eyes. Muhammad would look at you like, some food. Or, you know, if you were eating something, I want some. But normally, if you were eating something, you gave it to him anyway. You made him a plate as well. But he would tell you, and he would tell you, I want some of that. But when he was out in public, he would play quiet. And people would act, this is another thing he did too, which scared somebody totally to death. They were so afraid that Muhammad would fall walking. So Muhammad acted like he was stumbling. And they were like, oh, 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 oh. And I said, he's fine. He's fine. And scared them to death. But he's a showman. What can I say? He walked into a doctor's office. I said, Muhammad, he didn't want to go to well, this is one of the jokes on Lonnie. So he didn't want to go to therapy. Therapy was getting on the bicycle, riding, treadmill, they stretch him, whatever. He didn't want to go that day. That's his right. So he told me he was sick. Anytime Muhammad was sick, of course, we're going to call the doctor, we're going to get him an appointment, and they're going to get him in. And they did. Thank God they did. And they were kind like that. So I took him in. This is in Arizona. Muhammad walks into the doctor's office. First, he sees the candy bowl. He grabs some candy, puts it in his pocket. Then he heads down to the doctor's office, right? Everybody always in awe, waiting for Muhammad to come in and get seated into their office. Muhammad bumps into this wall, and he bumps over into me, and he bumps into this wall. And the doctor says, "Oh my God, he needs a walker." I said, "He's fine, he's fine, he's fine." We got into the office. Muhammad sat down. And in the office, he saw magazines, he saw books, he saw pictures. He was into everything in the doctor's office. He wasn't in there yet, actually in the doctor's office. The doctor wasn't in there. He was in all this stuff. I had to beg him, "Mom, please stop. Don't get in that. Put that down. Don't touch that," right? He was into everything. So finally, the doctor came in and examined him. He said, "Well, Muhammad, I can't find anything wrong with you." And he says, "Well, you all can go." I said, "Okay. Muhammad, come on, we can leave." Muhammad walked out of that doctor's office straighter and better than me. There wasn't and the doctor left. When we left, his mouth was like, wide open, like in disbelief. Like, oh my God, she was right. There wasn't anything wrong with him. But Muhammad put on a showman. I mean, if you thought he was sick, he was going to act it. And that's what a lot of people caught. He was going to show them, "Yeah, I'm real sick, feel sorry for me." Then he would walk out of it. And then you would realize it was a joke. So when you'll hear all kinds of stories. And like I said, if you met Muhammad, everybody has a story. A beautiful story, a fun story. And people would just come and put eyes on him, just have to see him from a distance or just know that you were in the same room with him.
I mean, what a great story. Now, I know I've been knowing you from years from this, and the funniest thing that every time you start imitating him, it cracks me up. How did you pick up his voice like that?
Well, if you've been around Muhammad for so many years, I mean, you just do. Matter of fact, Muhammad's voice, I haven't heard anybody ever really sound like Muhammad. I mean, we can imitate him, but there's nobody walking this earth that I've run into that actually sound like Muhammad. Muhammad had an unusual voice, and it was amazing. I mean, it was amazing. But another thing I wanted to clear up too, because a lot of people were hurt when they talked about Muhammad's friendships with people. Muhammad was your friend, your friend, your friend, your friend, and your friend. And he was your best friend because that's how he was, and that's how he came at you. But Muhammad only had really a very few friends. Howard Bingham was one of his dearest friends because he had been with him for years and years and years. Lonnie Ali was his best of best friends. I can say I was his best friend, but I was really more like his sister because he was almost like my real brother by another mother. He was more of my brother. But we, the friendship that we had, our families had. But Muhammad was best friends with everyone. No one was left out. What a wonderful man. What a wonderful man. And like I said, stories can go on and on and on. And everyone has a story if they met Muhammad, if you've been in the room with Muhammad. And a lot of people here in Louisville have. And everybody wants to tell their story. And that's the beauty of him.
Is it true blondes have more fun?
Yes, sir. You betcha. You betcha.
If Muhammad was in your life, he was your friend. He could have been your best friend. He's everybody's best friend because that's who he was. Growing up as a child, we felt Muhammad was ours. We didn't care what the world, we didn't know the world even existed because he introduced us to the world. We were children. So we felt Muhammad was ours, and when he came home, everything was off the plate. You didn't pay attention to your parents, you paid attention to him because he was entertaining the neighborhood. He didn't only entertain us, he went and got all the kids in the neighborhood. He would tease them, tease the boys, sit there and box with them, and you would see pictures of this. Muhammad would sit there and tell stories and try to teach you to be a better person, do good in school and mind your parents. And, you know, he was so much fun. The kids, when they knew he was in town, they would come running. Yeah. Not only that, Muhammad would pull up in a big, huge mobile home, and whoever had a mobile home back then, a Cadillac convertible, whoever seen one of those? I mean, a Rolls Royce, oh my goodness. You know, so you can just imagine he was always full of excitement.
I just thought about it. You lived in every phase of his life.
I did.
Every phase of his life.
I did. I did. And the beauty of it, I didn't only live in his, I lived in his parents, his mother and father, his brother, his nieces, nephews, his children. So, you know, it's funny because my kids and my family knows him, and his kids and his family knows me. So I was always around. But the good thing is I was up under my mother and Miss Clay most of the time.
Yeah.
So I got to hear all the good stuff.
Yeah. Wow. But that's amazing.
So, I mean, it was just a great life, a great childhood.
Wow. Wow.